This week on the Big Story Podcast.
The earth is not healthy. We have to think about what we are consuming and where it's coming from.
In a world that is facing unprecedented challenges,
I think it's really important that we all remember that everything is connected. I think quite a lot talks about what's happening in the Arctic, but we need to be aware that everything is connected. So what's happening in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic, but also that what happens in the rest of the world doesn't stay there either. I think we are very focused on talking about what happens in countries instead of what's happening on Earth.
Technology and ingenuity are providing tools to address our urgent needs.
We decided to harness the old landfill. We say to the kids that go to the biogas buses, you are driving on your food waste from your grandfather.
And opening new paths to embrace a circular economy.
We've diverted 23 million pounds of waste from landfill across the globe, and we've distributed 80 million bars of soap to children, families, mothers in 127 countries across the globe.
Next on the Big Story Podcast. Hi, I'm Joe Zarinko, a producer here at Big Story. Rampant plastic pollution, extreme weather patterns, predictions of mass extinction events. It seems like every bit of news these days spells doom. But these scary headlines often eclipse another, more hopeful reality. Stories of ingenuity and resilience, of technology and paradigm shifts, of people everywhere coming to terms with the emergency humanity is facing and finding a new trajectory to make sustainable development a reality. This episode is called The Endless Harvest. We start off in Greenland, the largest island on planet Earth. While geographically located in the Americas, it's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Since most of its territory is in the Arctic Circle, Greenlanders are keenly aware of the effects of climate change and the urgency to adopt a new paradigm. Meet Tavik Trondheim.
Sustainability has been around for some time in other parts of the world. And it's something that we want to implement in this country. And we're trying to motivate other people to do the same as us. And my name is Tavik Trondheim, and I'm the manager of Wild Food.
Wild Food allows customers to pre-order meat and fish when hunters and fishers are going on a trip.
What we have sold most of is probably cod, redfish and halibut. We've also been selling a lot of seals, sometimes whales, but it's very rare. Hunters and fishermen know how much people have ordered. If you as a fisherman know that people have pre-ordered for up to 100 kilo, then you know that you only need 100 kilo instead of catching for 500 kilos for maybe the same pay or even better pay. Hunters and fishermen, it's more sustainable for them if they get more for what they catch, so they don't need to catch more than they need. The benefits for the consumers or customers is that it's as fresh as it can get.
Hi. Okay.
We like to think that people want to know what's the history behind the food.
Sourcing ingredients locally can be a challenge for Greenlanders.
Everything is imported from Denmark to Greenland. So everything is in shipping containers. It's good for economy to be more self-efficient. My name is Nabartor Petrusen. I'm a CEO for Sesuma Sea Salt. Sesuma means the deep in Greenlandic. It's also where the mother of sea.
Instead of importing salt, Nabartok came up with the idea to produce it in Nuuk by harvesting it from the waters off of Greenland's coast.
We have to rent a boat and sail away from the city, and we collect it in big gallons, 1,000 liters gallons, and filter it for microplastic. We produce salt for consumers, and we also have some salt with herbs from Nuuk Fjord. And this is Arctic thyme, and this have a really nice smell to it. This one is cranberry, where we mix the cranberry liquid with sea salt, so you get this kind of ruby color for the sea salt.
Sesuma Salt's factory also uses local renewable resources for its electricity. The factory is made of shipping containers situated next to the city's incinerator. The excess heat from burning waste supplies energy to power the plant.
The earth is not healthy. We have to think about what we are consuming and where it's coming from.
While in the rest of the world, topics like these are rarely addressed and easily dismissed, for Greenlanders, they are existential issues. Listen to Dr. Mee Winding, head of the country's Climate Research Center.
I think it's really important that we all remember that everything is connected. I think quite a lot talks about what's happening in the Arctic, but we need to be aware that everything is connected. So what's happening in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic, but also that what happens in the rest of the world doesn't stay there either. I think we are very focused on talking about what happens in countries instead of what's happening on Earth.
Millions of Nigerians have fallen into food poverty in the past 2 years. Nigeria-based Commodities Exchange, AFEX, estimates flooding and other factors will cut maize output by 12% year on year.
For the next story, we head to Nigeria in Western Africa, where an entrepreneur named Amos Adebisi has found in technology a response to the challenges the small farmers of his country are facing. Nigeria relies almost exclusively on rainfall for agriculture. This leaves the country's farmers vulnerable to land degradation. Low crop yields affect not only the farmers, but also 70% of the Nigerian population.
The major challenge I've discovered for small-scale farmers in Nigeria has been irrigation and then poor inputs. Climate change is something that very, very unpredictable. Now, so poor reservoir facilities that could reserve water during the excess rain, and then also ability to recharge the farm during the drought.
With this in mind, Amos created the app Food Data. Here he is explaining how it works.
We discovered that one of the challenges with smallholder farmers in Nigeria is data. Now, there is inadequacies of data to inform decision making. We took our statistics to find out what they know, and we discover they know little or nothing about some of the recent developments in the modern farming or smart agriculture. The app is one major solution in the data collection. So using this data that we collect in the community, even from the farmers and livelihoods, we forecast and predict future occurrences, what is to be and what is not to, and make viable decisions and suggestions and counsel that will help the farmers.
Odeyal Kunle has been a farmer all his adult life. He and his family rely on the sale of maize, but in recent years, changes in temperature have resulted in smaller yields.
Climate change affected my farm last year drastically, and as a result of that, I was unable to get enough money from the farm because all the plant I plant on the farm, then everything dries up because the rain stopped abruptly. So it was during that period that I got to know about the food data. When I start working with food data, what I learned is that when they supply all these things, it resists the climate change. When there's change in climate, plants are able to survive.
Smart farming is an essential piece of the puzzle when it comes to figuring out a sustainable answer to the climate emergency. Listen to what Princeton professor Tim Searchinger has to say on the subject.
The challenge is basically this: we need to produce 50% more food with 2/3 fewer emissions and at the very most on the same area of agricultural land. Okay, so how do you do that? Is it possible? Well, the answer is probably yes if we really work at it. There are ways to increase crop yields, there are ways to raise livestock more efficiently. One of the key themes of the report is the way we should really think of every hectare of land now as sacred. We have to use it well. It cannot be wasted.
The change towards sustainable cycles is also apparent in other sectors like the hospitality industry. Take this example out of Florida in the US, where an NGO called Clean the World is working with hotel chains. They recycle and reuse the soap and toiletries left over from hotel guests. Here is Rebecca Betancourt, Chief of Housekeeping for a major hotel based out of Florida.
So this person had this idea, a great idea, to collect all those soap that we throw away daily, because I don't know how many bars you can throw daily, more than 100 in a hotel, and create this amazing little bar of soap that will save the life of somebody.
The real aha moment for Clean the World came when I did research and found that in 2009, when we launched, there were 9,000 children under the age of 5 dying every day to hygiene-related illnesses, pneumonia and diarrheal disease. #1 and #2 killers of children worldwide. And all these studies showed that if we just gave them soap and taught them how and when to wash their hands, we could cut those deaths in half. 14 years later, we now have 8,000 hotels that operate our program. We recycle 1.4 million hotel rooms. We've diverted 23 million pounds of waste from landfill across the globe, and we've distributed 80 million bars of soap to children, families, mothers in 127 countries across the globe.
And listen to Martin Thiel from the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center. He explains why circular economy cycles are so important when it comes to tackling the issue of plastic waste.
We don't want to get rid entirely of the plastic. We need to have products that we can use over and over again. We need to have products that we can reuse, that we know, and we can reuse it and reuse it, and we need to avoid these losses of plastics. But we should be a little bit more intelligent in using these plastics and not be so sloppy in using it, because this sloppiness generates a lot of problems for the environment and for ourselves.
And here's Paula Caballero from the Nature Conservancy with a final reflection.
What we're trying to do is rebuild the soils and protect the water sources and have resilient watersheds and understand the importance of pollinators and protect their habitats. So as you start to look at it in a much more integrated way, in a systemic way, where nature becomes your partner, your counterpart, without going into the complexities of the very deep cultural and spiritual connections that are also embedded in that, but just from a very practical perspective, which is to move from an extractive model to a regenerative model. That is the way that we guarantee the foundations and the conditions for continued growth, because we need to grow global food production by 60% by 2050 to meet global demand, and we can't do that under current conditions.
That's all for the Big Story podcast this week. Special thanks to my colleagues Caleb Lopez and Felipe Lozano Puche here in our CGTN America studios. If you want to check out the full-length documentary, we'll drop the links on the show's notes, or you can just go to CGTN Now on Apple TV.